Welcome back, all you beautiful Texans. It's the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Yeah, let's go. Well, while drones and school shootings have been getting a lot of the share of the headlines to start off this week, immigration still churning in the background, and here to help us make some sense of it, Kate Lincoln Goldfinch. She is an immigration attorney. Welcome back to the James Show. And crowd is happy to see you again. Okay, so we have sort of an idea of what we can expect, at least in the first, 90 days, maybe just the first week of what Trump's going to do. What effect is that going to have on legal immigrants? Let's talk about them first, the legal immigrants that are already here.
Well, I think that we're going to see a lot of different actions that impact various programs. So some of the things that Trump has said he'll do is, attempt to end birthright citizenship. So that what that might look like is that children born to immigrant parents in the United States might have difficulty obtaining U.S. passports after their birth, for example, or people who have naturalized might have their citizenship reviewed by what they're calling a denaturalization unit, which is going to go in and investigate for fraud in cases. People who have green cards or work permits will probably start to experience delays and difficulties in their cases. We saw processing times in the last administration double during Trump, 1.0. And so what that means is that people who are in regular immigration process with U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Service just experience difficulties and delays in their cases. And then ultimately, I think some of the things we're going to see really quickly is this, emphasis on interior deportations, whereas in the first administration, there was a lot of focus on the border. This go around, there's going to be interior enforcement, and that will look like people who have outstanding orders are going to get picked up at their houses, but we'll also see a lot of work site audits and raids that is going to impact, the economy, I think, pretty significantly early on in the administration.
What about the people who are here on asylum claims? They haven't had their court date yet or had that all processed, if they're awaiting it. Do these people, do their odds go down of being able to stay?
Sure. I mean, once someone's in an asylum proceeding, the jurisdiction over that person and what happens with them lies with the immigration judge. But what we saw the first go around, again, is that, resources are cut, which, lengthens and creates difficulty. But also we start to see just different, policies, memos, executive orders, attorney general certification. So the immigration court system is actually part of the Department of Justice, which is part of the executive branch. It's not part of the judicial branch of the government. And so the Attorney General of the United States can certify a case to him or herself and issue what's called a precedent decision, which impacts the way cases are decided. So even though these are court cases, the executive branch of the president has a lot of control and power over how the cases are decided. So I think asylum will get harder. Cases will get more challenging, but ultimately people will still they will have access to the court system if the laws are followed.
Okay, so let's talk about what's missing. Trump 1.0 had travel bans that he implemented, or at least tried to implement in a couple of times. I haven't heard anything about a travel ban this time around. Am I just missing that, or did that fall off of the policy toolbook?
I have heard about some here and there, and I think there was a section on that in the Project 2025 plan, so we might see that again. I mean, the travel bans were blocked in federal court the first go-around pretty quickly. There were a lot of, there were so many policies in Trump 1.0 that there was one for every 4 days he was in office. It was sort of a nonstop, a barrage at what can we do that's going to hold up in court. And so they know a lot this time about what will survive federal court challenge, and those travel bans were blocked pretty quickly by the courts. So maybe they're not focusing on them as much because they don't think that they'll survive litigation.
All right, Kate, what about the business owners or managers around here that depend on foreign labor and some of these visa programs? Is there anything you would be telling them to do to prepare for January 20th?
Absolutely. This is a really legitimate concern. One of the ways that they're going to go after undocumented workers is through the job sites. So that means they're going to be conducting I-9 audits of employers. So these employers, everybody who employs immigrants needs to have a lawyer on hand who helps them think through conducting the I-9 audits. And then if there's a raid at our work site, who's going to be the response person? What are they going to do? Is there an area that's labeled private where, agents can't enter without a warrant? Are we clear on what that is? And who do we have in our workforce that's an immigrant? What are their needs coming up? Do they have a work permit renewal happening? Do they need to explore other options? How can we provide that to them? So being proactive and protective and thinking through this. I mean, this is the thing I tell employers and families in times like these is do not wait for the emergency moment to decide what you're going to do. Have a plan in place, because when, an undocumented mom is pulled over at the side of the road and her kids are in the back seat and she's getting detained, that is not the moment for her to figure out who she's going to call and who has authorization to take care of those kids. She needs to have a plan beforehand, as do the employers. We need to be thinking and preparing right now because we know what's coming. It's not a secret.
All right, this is Kate Lincoln Goldfinch from Lincoln Goldfinch Law, and it's exactly like it sounds, lincolngoldfinch.com. Thank you very much. Appreciate your expertise, Kate.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it's got to be tough if you're one of those business owners. You might want to call her or someone like her, because things are going to happen. I imagine it's not going to be the same for Trump 2.0. But your thoughts, 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. All right, coming up next, you're going to hear some audio coming out of Detroit that sounds like a Texas story and has to do with, should you be allowed to shoot shoplifters? 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. All right, you're going to like this story. This will make you think. Should you be allowed to shoot shoplifters? I know the silly, easy, reductive elementary school line would be like, well, no life is worth some material. Okay, that's nice. But you and I both know that if you're going to have a law against theft, then somebody's going to lose their life eventually. There's going to be people who get arrested and they'll resist arrest. And when things escalate with police, eventually you're going to have someone that dies from it. So anytime you ask if something should be illegal, you're really asking, should the enforcement, is this so important that it should be enforced even to the point of death? And every law should be that important. This is why it seems silly to go after people who just print money and do counterfeiting bills. But if, we don't put a stop to that, this whole thing collapses pretty quick. Same thing with theft. We see what happens if you don't properly punish theft, thievery. If you go to the other extreme, they just repealed that in California because it was so nasty, basically encouraging it. And also you can think of it as, in economic terms, if you're just living on a deserted island and you have one tribe on one side of the island, there's another tribe of like 12 people on the other side of the island, and they keep taking stuff from you, you're going to die. If they keep taking resources from you, you don't have an abundance of resources like you do in modern civilization. You can easily make a straight line connection between private property rights and life or death. Private property rights should be life or death. So for me, philosophically speaking, absolutely you should be able to shoot shoplifters. Now, if I had a store, I wouldn't be so quick to shoot them. I realize most shoplifters are probably just kids having a good time or people who are taking so little that it doesn't really matter. But if it gets to the point to where it is threatening your business or it keeps happening over and over, or if in the process you feel threatened at any point, there's not a whole lot of sympathy that goes out when I hear terrible stories like this. So we go to Detroit. This is from Metro Detroit News. And what you'll hear first is there is a Detroit police officer, and it must be like 2 degrees there because there's like smoke coming out of his mouth when he talks, and he's wearing like a giant heavy coat. I just forget some people live on the ice moon of Hoth while we're rolling around at 75 degrees in December. And then it's going to cut to 2 city council ladies. And the city council women here have some very strong opinions that disagree with me. Their names are Angela Whitfield Galloway and Mary Waters. So that's the three people you're going to hear in this report from Metro Detroit News about the shoplifter getting shot at a gas station. There's a gas station.
An employee of this business over an incident that appears to be shoplifting came from behind the glass outside and began discharging a firearm at an individual whom they suspected of shoplifting. Those actions putting this community in danger is not okay. It is not acceptable.
It's despicable. It's inhumane what has happened here. And this is one of the second incidents that has occurred at this location. And I'm hoping that this gas station will be closed permanently with a capital P. Because to chase someone down and shoot at them because allegedly they stole something, I understand it was a bag of chips. Whatever it was. His life was worth more than $1. It couldn't have cost more than $1.
And it could have replaced that. Come on, you have to value life more than that. And until we continue to get the type of respect in our community that we deserve, we're going to shut them down.
All right. There's a couple of easy philosophical pushbacks on this. Life is worth more than $1. Yeah, fine. Then don't steal. You don't have to worry about losing your life over a bag of chips. You know, that argument always goes both ways. But also, like, if life is worth more than $1, and it's no big deal if someone just takes $1 from you. Mary Waters, why don't you go empty out your savings account, put it all in cash, and then we'll just stack it up on a table in your front yard, and everybody can come by and just take $1. Now, pretty soon you will be flat broke and your life will be ruined, right? And if denying someone a claim, their ability to pay for a medical treatment is akin to murder, then taking resources is akin to murder. Oh my goodness, we've already established that precedent in y'all's warped way of thinking when y'all said nice things about the guy who shot the United Healthcare CEO. Remember, you were just told last week that denying someone's ability to pay for their medical coverage is akin to murder. You just heard Taylor Lorenz say that earlier in the show. That's why it brought her joy. Of course he got shot. He's killing all these other tens of thousands, if not millions of people by with what? Denying them resources. Well, what do shoplifters do? What do thieves do? So should you be able to shoot someone shoplifting? 800-288-9227. If you have any experience with this or something to add, 800-288-9227. I'd really like to hear from the people who disagree. You shouldn't be able to legally shoot shoplifters. Now, there's also the fun reaction here that Angela Whitfield Galloway had. This gas station should be closed forever. Well, why don't you just fire the one guy that did it? And if everyone else thinks the way you do, can't we still have the gas station? Can we still just leave it open? It has to be shut forever. That's it. We're going to just knock over the building brick by brick and salt the earth that it stood on. There can never be a gas station. What if we get the guy? What if he, okay, what if you said it was an alleged shoplifting. Okay, what if he really did shoot an innocent person? Fine. Arrest that guy, send him to jail for murder, and we'll hire another guy. Can we leave the gas station open? I don't understand how cutting off the supply of gasoline at this location is going to fix anything or be some sort of justice or retribution for the wrongs that were previously committed. Did we do that for any other business? Did someone has someone shot a bank robber and Angela Whitfield Galloway shows up? She's like, that's it. We got to close this bank. This bank never needs to be. Silly arguments, childish arguments. And the empathy only seems to go one way. The empathy wasn't for the United Healthcare CEO. He's has a wife and kids, and their life is ruined. They're going to have an empty chair at Christmas. The empathy was with the people who were sick, and United Healthcare denied them claims. Okay, look, fine. Admit that you have empathy for one side, but not the other side. And then over here, you have empathy for the thief, but not for the business that is getting robbed. You have empathy for the guy that is taking from society and make it harder for people who are doing the right thing to feed their family. And you're punishing the guy who's trying to enforce what we all agree are the laws of a civil society. See, you can't take the mantle of empathy and rub it in your opponent's face if you're not truly empathetic. If you're selectively empathetic, well, now you're just weaponizing people's emotions and trying to paint your political opposition as heartless. Why? Because probably you don't have the philosophical argument won otherwise. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Here's what I think. I think when you punish these criminals, you come out and you have people like this who show empathy for the criminal. But the criminals act primarily in their own neighborhood. So where's the empathy for the people that they're victimizing? This isn't the only one crime that they've ever committed in their entire life. I don't think it's much of a stretch to imagine they've shoplifted from other places. Who do you think's hurt by that? Even if you think that you're rushing to support your tribe, even if you think, I imagine there's a bit of a racial motivation coming from these ladies. Well, what about the people they're stealing from? You don't have empathy for them? They're probably the same race. The selective empathy is really weird because now you're not even selectively empathetic towards your own race or toward the black race. It's just the criminals within it. You're not supporting the business owners. You didn't care in Ferguson and Kenosha and all the places where they were having riots about all the businesses that were getting burnt down and torched and all the lives that were being ruined and all the life savings. Yeah, I see that. Anyway, shooting shoplifters. I know it sounds extreme. It is extreme. But you do this a few more times, have this in the news a little bit more frequently. It doesn't have to happen every day. I bet you shoplifting goes down. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. Coming up next, Dr. Matt Chalmers. He's a healthy living expert. And we're going to talk about whether or not processed foods really are the reason why so many people are overweight. Because I'm skeptical. I'm James Parker. It's The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome back to The James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. I am your host, James Parker. My next guest helps keep us in shape, and if we need a little scolding, he's pretty good at that. And I mean that in a good way. Dr. Matt Chalmers is back on from chalmerswellness.com. Welcome back.
Thank you, sir.
Before we get into this new study about ultra-processed food, there's a lot of things that we've been talking about in the last couple of shows that I want to bounce off you first. Number one is, you could probably just hear this. Elizabeth Warren is claiming that RFK wants to bring back polio and get rid of fluoride. Let me
say goodbye to your smile and say hello to polio. I would laugh if it weren't so scary.
All right, that's enough. She's saying he wants to get rid of the polio vaccine and fluoride in the water. Let's do the polio vaccine first. Trump already replied saying we're not trying to get rid of the polio vaccine. It's just some of the rules around vaccines have been changed, and we're going to review that. Your thoughts?
So the biggest issue is that these things have not been studied nearly as well as we'd like them to. So, for instance, a lot of these, they just monitored the patient for 4 days, 5 days, and said, oh, they're fine, nothing happened to them. And they were also very small studies. And so what we're asking for, what RFK is asking for, is to go back through like a double-blind clinical study and be like, no, we want to look at this for 5 years with 1,000 people, like a real study, and really do the research. And if they're great, let's make sure everybody gets them. And if there's problems, let's figure out how to fix the problem. So they're not trying to get rid of anything. They're just trying to get better research on them.
So I figured, though, the polio vaccine would be kind of settled now. I took the polio vaccine. I hadn't got polio. Seems to be working for me.
And there's a lot of things that have actually helped with polio besides the vaccine. Like one of the big things is sanitation. Like, have we cleaned up the standing water? Have we cleaned up, sewage issues? Have we cleaned up some of the chemicals that are in our foods and stuff like that that's making us unhealthy?
Well, look, I'm not arguing with you. When you say it like that, wouldn't one of the greatest healthcare inventions in human history be toilet paper?
What's funny is the thing that's helped humans the most from all medical function was washing our hands. And that when that research came out, the guy who said we should wash our hands was laughed into literally an insane asylum because the medical at the time was like, that's silly. Until Pasteur came out and said, yes, bacteria and stuff, germs are a thing. Everybody thought it was just silly to wash your hands. And so doing the research and really taking a second look at things is really kind of a smart idea.
What about fluoride in the water?
There's a lot of research showing that fluoride competes directly at the thyroid for iodine binding sites. Ooh. And it reduces thyroid function. And there's secondary research that reducing thyroid function seems to reduce IQ in adolescents. So having fluoride in the water while you're pregnant is problematic from certain research. And this is just another one of those things where we want to look again at the research and say, maybe we shouldn't be putting fluoride in the water. Maybe we should, but let's take another look at the research.
Well, that explains why I'm such a damn genius. I grew up where we didn't have fluoride in the water. We had well water, and we actually had an electric pump. I didn't have to pull it up by the bucket. by the time I was in high school. But I don't think I had fluoride in the water when I was growing up. Did I get a secret benefit?
There's the research is kind of split on this. I talked to my dentist friends, and they're like, no, we have great research on teeth. And, a lot of people are saying, well, if we look at the thyroid, we have problems. And so that's what we want this extra research is like, hey, we haven't looked at a lot of these things in 20 to 30 years. Let's reevaluate where we're at. And if we have problems, that we weren't thinking of the first time, because if like the fluoride was just for teeth, but we didn't think of thyroid, well, let's take another look at this research and maybe change what we're doing.
Is there maybe a little truth to the stereotype that people from the country are just big, dumb animals and people from the city are cute little sissies? I mean, that's an exaggeration to make a point, but there might be a little truth to that if what you say about fluoride is true.
There's a lot of little truths in there, because if you take somebody from the country who's out working in the fields and, actually doing physical labor versus somebody who sits behind a computer all the time, you're going to have one person who has a lot more strengths and one person who has, in one area versus the other. So, it's very possible that some of these things where we've changed, like you look at the Amish who don't have a lot of the medical stuff that has gone on, we see lower instances of autism and things like that. And so there is some truth to the fact that, maybe some of the things we're doing, the processed foods and stuff like that, isn't the best stuff in the world.
All right, let's talk about this study that shows ultra-processed foods are connected to arthritis. Are you down with that?
Oh, yeah. So there's a lot of the chemicals that are in ultra-processed foods. And so for people if we're asking what is an ultra-processed food, a lot of the cereals, anything that comes in a box that can sit on a shelf for 2-3 weeks or a month, those are the ultra-processed stuff. And the chemicals that are in those that keep it from breaking down, it's hard for our gut bacteria to break it down as well. So it creates inflammation and it creates a number of different problems in the gut. And as a lot of people are starting to find out, the gut has a giant amount of health benefits to everything we do.
Well, that's why I've been working on getting my gut as big as possible. It's just for health reasons, Matt. What about my pushback on, I think some of the lessons we've learned from Ozempic and Mounjaro and all these semaglutides is that these people are losing weight, not because they're not eating processed foods or they're not eating gluten or high fructose corn syrup or whatever the preservative scary term of the week is. They're just eating less of it. And so I think one of the lessons is it's not what you eat, it's the fact that you're eating with a shovel is the problem.
Overeating is a giant issue. And one of the things that with these ultra processed foods is that it actually increases addiction function and it increases the amount that we're actually eating. It'll shut off the satiety so that we don't feel full and we continue to eat. And that's one of the big problems that we have with these ultra processed foods.
Satiety. That's a new, from the root word satiate, I imagine. I've just never heard it used like that before. Well done. All right. ChalmersWellness.com is his website. I'm going to put him on the spot real quick and ask him if he's coming out to the James Show meetup at Richardson Bar and Grill tonight.
Send me an email on it and I might be able to show up and say hi to everybody.
All right. Well, put him on the spot. That was a very polite no, I think, but we'll take it. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Your thoughts on these health issues, because that's what's being debated right now. And this is a worthy debate to have. At least we're not talking about where people in a wig go to the bathroom. This is important stuff that affects us all. Do you have a problem with ultra-processed foods and preservatives and gluten? Because I love them. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Coming up next, RFK is catching smoke from The View and Pocahontas over his stance on food, additives, vaccines, fluoride, weight loss. You'll hear it next on The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. RFK is going on a crusade against ultra-processed food. He's saying some concerning things to some people about vaccines, and they want to study getting fluoride out of the water. And with this whole flurry of healthcare news, we're just trying to assess it all. What do you think? 800-288-9227. Let's ask Catherine in Dallas. You're on WBAP. What do you think?
I am thrilled that he's going to be attacking this issue because I think it is definitely a health crisis. I am someone that suffers from autoimmune diseases and has for over 20 years, and I met up with a nutritionist many, many years ago. Like I said, it was like 20 years ago, and one of the first questions she asked me was, do you drink a lot of water? And I said, yes, of course, thinking that was the right answer. And she said, "What about, is it tap water?" And I said, "Yes." And she just went, "Oh, stop." And I'm like, "Why?" And she said, "Your body does not need fluoride and chlorine, those additives." She said, "The fluoride is great for your teeth. You get it in your toothpaste. Drinking it does not give you added benefits, but it does harm your body." And she told me then, too, that it definitely affects the thyroid. But, all the additives now, they're putting in the wheat, the corn. There's a high percentage of the population, almost 50%, that cannot synthesize that, and the body starts attacking it. And when you start attacking, that's what brings on inflammation and wear down the body.
Okay, but my body handles it just fine. How about we leave?
Maybe you.
Okay, yeah, but we don't need to.
If you're not, we're getting now to where we're almost half the population. All you have to do is look at the broad spectrum of the Americans. You compare it to the rest of the world. You see what health issues they have, what we have compared to what they suffer from as far as being, obesity and illnesses.
What is your answer when I say Ozempic disproves that processed foods are the problem? Because I've seen people lose 100. Well, hang on, let me explain myself. I've seen people lose 100 pounds, and it's not because they stopped eating processed food or high fructose corn syrup or preservatives or gluten or whatever. They ate the exact same foods. They just ate less of it. And so if ultra processed,
yes, the weight makes you healthy. Losing weight is a positive for you, but does it eliminate all your other issues, though?
It eliminates the fat.
But that may not be. That's not the illness.
Well, I'm not saying it's going to cure every ailment you have, but I'm saying the impediment to weight loss isn't the fact that you're eating processed foods. It's that you're eating so much of them. It proves that it's not just
it's part of it, but for other people that it does affect the cells differently. Cells react differently to it. They hold water. They swell. They do things that they shouldn't do because it isn't natural.
Okay.
And you don't know how to deal with that.
So as long as you're okay with just discouraging people from eating it and not trying to ban ultra processed foods, me and you can live in the same world. But whenever you start saying, well, this is bad, so I don't think people should have access to it, that's the only place I'd have a problem with it. I think we agree on everything else.
Well, I don't think all the preservatives and everything do us any benefits at all. I do think there's
they keep my food from rotting.
Don't know about, and like I said, all you have to do is compare our health with Europe, even per se, and I do think it's interesting. Every time I go to Europe and I eat whatever I want over there, and I don't, hold back because I'm there and I'm going to enjoy it, I lose weight. I come back home, I could never eat like that over here. And my brother that lives in Europe and his family, every time they come over, they say the same thing. We go home and we have to go on a strict diet because they always gain when they come to the U.S., even if they're eating very similar foods.
All right. Thank you very much. This is Catherine in Dallas. I appreciate your time. Thanks for calling in.
Thank you.
Let's see what Pocahontas has to say. She's not a big fan of RFK's new health care initiatives.
Say goodbye to your smile and say hello to polio. I would laugh if it weren't so scary. Donald Trump just picked RFK Jr. to lead the Department of Health and Human Services. This is a man who wants to stop kids from getting their polio and measles shots. He's actually welcoming a return to polio, a disease we nearly eradicated.
Welcome to polio.
But it doesn't stop there. RFK Jr. also doesn't believe fluoride should be in your water, and that's what keeps your teeth from rotting. You can't make this stuff up.
That's right. He wants to bring back polio. That's his official. Yeah, that's his position. There's all Elizabeth Warren's tribe coming. Don't at me, guys. I don't think RFK is pro polio. I don't think he's angling for a polio comeback. I don't think anybody's pro polio. I don't think anybody on planet Earth. There's not like a Bond villain out there that's pro polio. So not only is she saying something that's not true, it's like doesn't even exist. That's like, I think RFK secretly unicorn. Well, you can think that if you want, but you sound kind of silly. Nobody's pro polio. We don't want kids limping around. We don't want people in wheelchairs. No one is pro polio. Okay, it's just silly. And if you have the right argument, if the other side is so wrong, why do you have to twist what they say? Because actually, I'm kind of I'm a pro-vaccine guy, but I recognize the fact that some of the technology has changed in these vaccines. And that's one of the reasons why they like jacked up the cost and they jacked up the delivery method. And for some of these, it's not the same vaccine that you and I got when we were kids. And is there mRNA stuff in that one? You know, there's legit questions to be asked. But when you ask a question about it and the response is, well, say goodbye to your smile and get ready for polio, well, you're not a serious person. And this comes from the guy that's playing the Indian attack. When I'm telling you you're not a serious person, you might want to just reevaluate your whole life. Coming up next, we're going to talk to the crazy gun dealer, Kenny Frazier. You hear his commercials on WBAP. That might be him in the background right there. I'm going to ask him, what are the best guns to take down drones? Because that's, if we see drones in Texas, we know what to do. Start shooting them, right? So we'll ask him about that next. Also, you can help Salad and Go and Cumulus make the holidays bright for a child in need by donating to Cumulus Kids. Donate $100 or more at WBAP.com, and you'll be entered into a drawing to win an autographed football from Deion Sanders and Micah Parsons or Keith Urban tickets. Well, you can keep the Keith Urban tickets. I would like an autographed football from Deion Sanders or Micah Parsons. So join Salad and Go. Donate now, WBAP.com on the homepage. It's in the little rotator where the headlines are. Look for Cumulus Kids. And thank you to Salad and Go for making that happen. I'm James Parker. It's The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there. Welcome to The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. What are we going to do with colleges? Can we just like wipe the whole slate clean, start all over? I know you're going to lose your second favorite football team or whatever. But this is ridiculous. We now have colleges that are offering classes and even entire degrees on how to become a social media influencer. You don't need a degree for that. What's going on? Let me ask Jason Taylor. This is a guy who I saw him launch some careers. What was that, like a couple months ago? He's with CodeLaunch.com, but he's an expert on small businesses and startups. Welcome back, Jason Taylor, to The James Show.
Thank you, James. Glad to be back.
Look, you're somewhat of an influencer. Do colleges need to teach people how to do YouTube and be an influencer? I mean, it sounds like it's almost intuitive.
Well, okay. On the surface, it may seem a little bit like that. Like, oh, here's a degree and go try to be a rock star in the 90s, but the modern day equivalent. But I think there's a little bit of two sides to this coin. I think that there is a growing part of the worldwide economy that comes from small groups or individuals that are self-employed creators, not just the classic fill in the blank like influencer for makeup and women's fashion, right? There's a lot of different types of digital content you can create that can become valuable. And there is a whole industry to producing that content. It's more than what it looks like when just a person comes on your Instagram or TikTok and they're funny or they're good looking or whatever. They do some prank and you love it and share it. And you're like, wow, I'm one of the millions of people that likes this. There is a lot that went into that before it ever got even shot. There are people behind the scenes that you don't see. There's a small business and industry there, and there's a lot of people taking advantage of it. So, yes, do I think that the colleges are just in the business to sell degrees to people that people will buy? Yes. And are people probably going to fail at this and end up as waiters? Yes, but there is some value to it.
So the degree, I think, is what I have a problem with. You're right. There's a lot of skills that go into being an influencer, you know, how to stream audio, edit audio, make the graphics to go with it, you know, writing scripts, engineering a studio, doing the lighting, working it all with the computer, remote hookups, all that good stuff. Yeah. But a degree, I think, is where I feel like you're just ripping people off if you get an influencer degree.
Well, I don't disagree. I think that, you know, a degree in something like creative arts and entertainment. So that's a degree that I know a little bit about that they offer at the University of Texas. And I think the degree in creative arts and entertainment means you could be a professional in the film industry, maybe even in the radio industry, or maybe you end up producing content for an influencer or documentaries or who knows what. That kind of like can fill in that blank. So it does feel a little gimmicky. if colleges are just offering how to be an influencer as a degree, it feels like they're just trying to find people to pay the administrative staff more money.
Well, and don't think this is just something crazy that's going on in, evil old Seattle or, even worse, New York City, James.
New York City!
University of Texas at San Antonio has a degree in being a digital social media influencer. Okay, here's where I try and be self-aware. Am I being the old guy that's like, oh, new technology, it's I don't understand it, so I don't like it. And being an influencer really is a decent career path for people to be steered toward?
Well, I don't think that you're wrong. I wouldn't approve if my daughters came home right now and said, Dad, I switched my degree to social media influencer. I would say, no, you switched your location to my house. You're not going to college anymore. So I don't disagree. But I still think that there is probably a wider description of this field than is just a social media influencer that has value and that is going to continue to grow in value as the creator economy, the self-employed creator economy continues to grow, which it has been continuously for a decade.
All right, so what's the latest with Code Launch? Last time you were on the show, I heard rumors of a Netflix pilot. Is that still happening? Have they seen it yet? Did they approve it? Did you sign a 5-year contract? What's going on?
We are busy planning the next year's Code Launch event schedule, where we take tech startup founders, we help them build their products and launch and get funding. We're planning next year's schedule. We're definitely going to hit Mexico, Canada, and have the World Championship in November in Dallas again, but we can't really release any details. We definitely are putting all the awesome content we got together from last month's World Championship, and we're going to have an awesome pilot that hopefully you will see on streaming platforms maybe 2025.
Well, I think, Jason Taylor, you are responsible for launching more careers than the UTSA influencer degree program.
Well, definitely we help people launch their businesses and get funding, but we don't really give away degrees or launch, career paths, so to speak. We more like help tech founders who already have a career and help them through like entrepreneurism. Yeah, for those of you who aren't familiar with his work, he has a program where they take tech startups and they do sort of a Shark Tank show with it. And so a bunch of people compete. This is my idea. This is how it's going to work. And they try and get venture capitalists to buy into it. It's just like Shark Tank. I mean, that's a fair comparison. I'm allowed to say that, right? I think we call it the next generation in venturetainment. And we definitely think it's a lot of fun. It's like a live Shark Tank for tech startup founders and everybody who supports entrepreneurism and self-determination and conscious capitalism. And it's all brought to you by our parent company, Adam Proving. You can find out a lot more about it at codelaunch.com. So if there's someone with a tech startup or an idea for a startup that's brewing in their mind right now here in the DFW area, how do they get in on your program? Well, they just go to codelaunch.com and then sign up for the newsletter. Go follow our social media. We're at Code Launch on almost everywhere. And then all you got to do is watch for our announcement. We're working on it every day, trying to lock in the venues and the dates. And I'm actually pitching it tomorrow morning at 9:15. So we're coming soon with our schedule. All right. Well, good luck with all that, Jason Taylor. Thanks for being back on the James Show. You're welcome, James. Talk to you soon. All right. I think you might be coming out to the Richardson Bar and Grill tonight, 7 o'clock, if you want to hang out with us. We're just doing a little social meetup. It's not an official station event. We're not going to have the promo table there with giveaways or anything. I'm not going to sing a song or play guitar or anything. We're just hanging out. Richardson Bar and Grill at 7 o'clock. Coming up next, Rob Schneider's talking about his new media venture. He's coming up with what seems to be a challenge to The View. All right. You'll hear from him next on The James Show. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there. Welcome to The James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Just checking my email. I don't check it every break, but I try to. Apparently, I missed a few emails from the last hour where it seems like everybody in North Texas with an email account is okay with shooting shoplifters. Couldn't just shoot them fast enough. I think I got like 8 emails. They're like, just shoot them all. Just shoot them. There's good target practice. So, oh, my goodness. Okay. Good Lord. These people don't like shoplifters.
Y'all should go start a store, man. Go start a store in the bad part of town. We'll knock that shoplifting problem right out. All right, I heard something that it sounded interesting. I wanted to run it by you, give you something to think about too. Rob Schneider, you know him. He was great on Saturday Night Live, making copies. And then he did some questionable movies. What was the one where The Animal and then Deuce Bigelow and all that fun stuff? You Can Do It and The Waterboy. That guy, yeah. Elle King is his daughter. Did you know that? He was on Fox this morning, and he announced that he's going to have a new media company, and he's going to come up with some shows to take on the likes of The View.
Okay, the big announcement. What's happening?
Well, No Apologies Media, my new company. We're going to do a all-ladies talk show that won't be like The View.
Is it the opposite of The View?
It could be, but we're just going to do a show that it'll be the opposite because this will be entertaining.
Okay.
It'll be funny. Yeah. We'll have funny women on it that are going to tell jokes and have funny stories and health and wellness.
Is the idea to go after The View in the same time slot? Are you going, it's a competitor?
We're going to compete with them, yeah. I don't know if it's the same time slot. We're not going to announce who's doing the show yet, but that's what's happening now, and it's official. So now we're moving ahead.
Give us a timeline.
January, we're going to start shooting shows before the inauguration.
Are you talking to people? You're talking to famous people, women that you like?
Yes, we have a lot of women we like, and it's household names, and you're going to love it. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a funny show. Not going to be like drowning people in politics. It's not going to be shaming people and making people wince.
I like the sound of all that because I've always thought The View was a great idea in the fact that you had Barbara Walters, who was sort of the news, the gravitas at the table, and she was surrounded by comedians. That seemed to be what the point was at the beginning. Let's have Joy Behar, who I know she's not very funny now, but you'll slap yourself in the face if you go back and check out some of her stand-up from 20 years ago or 30 years ago. She's a funny stand-up. She's just not funny in her old age when she has to talk about politics and she just gets mad and angry. No, she's funny. Whoopi Goldberg's funny. I don't know if you've seen her stand-up before. Hilarious. But wokeism, leftism, liberalism, whatever, politics really sucks the fun out of so many people. And that kind of lets you know when you're on the wrong side. If your worldview is making you miserable, you might be subscribing to the wrong worldview. Now, the show itself, The View, isn't fatally flawed. The idea, the premise is all right. Let's just have some ladies sit down and talk. And it doesn't bother me that it's all ladies. That I like to hear from a table that is uninterrupted by men and see what the ladies are thinking out there. I like listening to my wife talk to her friends. It's just a little bit different. Sometimes you learn something. Sometimes you roll your eyes. Sometimes it's just cute to hear how they think. But what if you put different people in those seats? Because the other thing The View did is they always had like the token host that was the sort of newsy person, was Barbara Walters at the beginning. They worked themselves from not being a political show into being a political show where it's usually 4 on Team Blue and then 1 fake Team Red member. And I don't want to say fake necessarily. Anna Navarro, who's supposedly the Team Red, definitely fake. Meghan McCain was just kind of a squish, more of a neocon, kind of had the same belief system as her dad, which isn't a bad thing. It's just there's not one staunch person who believes what you believe on that show ever. And so how would the discussions be different if maybe the roles were reversed and there was 4 Team Reds and 1 Team Blue in there? Would they be able to get away with some of the stuff that they were saying? When we were talking about RFK yesterday, or Joy Behar just coming up with her howitzer cannon full of disinformation. Oh, he's found liable for rape. Oh, he called Nazis very fine people. Just every misinformation, every trite, hack, disproven hoax that you've heard of. Would it even be able to last for a few seconds? What if the audience didn't cheer for that like seals whenever something dumb was said? I think that'd be interesting to see if it came on at the same time as The View. And it had a similar platform, mind you, how it would do. We're not going to get that with Rob Schneider's platform. The thing that I think would be a close analog is comparing this to what Dr. Phil just did. Dr. Phil, had his notoriety that kind of started around the same time as Rob Schneider's. But his career was always tied to Oprah, and then he had his own talk show for years. That was actually pretty good for a daytime talk show, but it was still owned by a network. He wasn't his own boss. There was people telling him what to do. They were probably trying to steer the content and keep the sponsors happy, keep the money flowing. And he split off and he made Merit Media, and he just tried to start that earlier this year. And the content on it's fantastic. There's nothing wrong with every highlight I've seen from the Dr. Phil project that he's doing here in town. I think it's in Fort Worth somewhere. It's all been good. He just doesn't have the platform. It just doesn't have the notoriety. It just doesn't have, when you're flipping through the channels, it's not one of the things that easily pops up. You have to go seek it. You have to go find it. And so it's not just going to be good content that's going to win the day. There also has to be the platform for it. There has to be, that's what makes Joe Rogan so powerful. It's not that he has good content. It's that about 4 million people are going to listen to this episode he's spitting out this week. Even if it's with someone you haven't heard of, it's still going to get millions of people. So that's huge. I just think let's keep throwing stuff at the wall. Some of this is going to stick. But for every new person that tries Rob Schneider's company or that tries Dr. Phil's company, or for the other things we have going on, even here in Dallas, we have The Blaze with Glenn Beck. People who are watching that, every eyeball that's watching that now isn't watching at ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, MSNBC. Everyone that's tuning in to Steven Crowder, who I believe is still in the Dallas area and has his studio here, this is the new media. This is what's taken over. And it's not necessarily that Steven Crowder and Glenn Beck and Dr. Phil are now behemoths that can match the size and the might and the power and the reach of ABC, NBC, CBS. It's just that we have so damn many of them now. And it's democratized thought. And every little eyeball that is taken away from the old media and pointed at this new media, it's a win. So I hope I'm all the luck in the world. I love the idea. I would love to see a sane version of The View. I know some ladies who would be fantastic for that right now. And I'm thinking in the radio world. So whenever that comes out, I'll keep an eye on it. If you see it before I do, send it to me because I can't wait to watch it. All right. Tonight we are having a James Show meetup event. This is an unofficial event. It's not a station event. There's going to be no planned entertainment. There's going to be no band or karaoke or trivia. There's going to be no promo table with freebies on it. It's just for you to come say hi to me. And then really the important part is for you people to meet each other. It's so hard to find like-minded people, these days and a safe group of friends, people you don't have to worry about accusing you of being a Nazi or a sexist or a racist or a bigot or a homophobe or anything. We're just going to go out and we're going to tell inappropriate jokes and we're going to say some improper, out-of-date terms and we're all just going to have a good laugh about it, have a few drinks. So no pressure here. Come be yourself. Dress as nice or as sloppy as you want, and we'll just come judge each other based on our appearance. Richardson Bar and Grill. I just want to reiterate, thank you to Steve for separating out all the wings over the weekend. So if you buy the hot wings, that's the James Show special. Buy the hot wings at Richardson Bar and Grill tonight. All right wings. And that's thanks to Steve. Steve did that. He made that happen. So come on out and say hi at 7 o'clock. Richardson Bar and Grill. Your phone knows where it's at. Campbell, just east of 75. Stick around. Mark Levin's coming up next. I'm James Parker. This has been The James Show on News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.